Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventus Mining's live event hosted by Six. I'm pleased to introduce their speakers for today, Christian Kargl-Simard, President and CEO of Adventus Mining, and Marshall Koval, CEO of Luminex. They will discuss the news that was released today, and after that, we'll be accepting questions. As a reminder, you can submit your questions in the chat at any point during the conversation in the bottom right corner of your screen. As always, the summit is being recorded and will be available on six.com to watch afterwards. So without further ado, I'll hand things over to you, Christian, to kick things off.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm super pleased to be here with Marshall to roll out this very exciting transaction as a combination between Adventus and Luminex. Both these companies have been operating in Ecuador for the last approximately 6 years. We have very complementary assets that are copper-gold, gold-copper across the portfolio, and we think we create a leading company in Ecuador with the next mine to be built in Domo and future mines within our Proforma portfolio. Adventus has been reviewing strategic transactions throughout 2023 in light of difficult market conditions. And we've been looking at all sorts of transactions from strategic investment, sale of the company, mergers, and other types. This is a combination of many months of hard work, and we believe this is the best transaction for our shareholders. Marshall and I started talking in September of this year at the Beaver Creek Show. We struck a chord, and we've quickly moved through due diligence to this point today. Marshall?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. I think this is a great opportunity for both the Adventus and the Luminex shareholders. With the Domo project moving towards the final permits and construction next year, the Luminex group brings quite a bit of mine building and mine operations experience to the portfolio as well. And we look forward to helping bring this to fruition along with advancing our primary project in Luminex, the Condor project, where we've had quite a bit of success recently with some high-grade underground drilling. So with that, Christian, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Some forward-looking statements. So transaction highlights. So the focus of the company is to put Domo into production as quickly as possible and to use our collective resources of capital and people to get us there. This is a unique asset in the business, very, very high grade, high margin. We see it as the highest grade undeveloped copper project globally. It happens to be in Ecuador. You're looking at about 10 million tons at 5% copper equivalent open pitable. That high grade leads to very high margins, $1.26 per pound copper equivalent on an all-in sustaining cost basis. We have announced $241 million of project financing, the majority as a stream with Wheaton Precious Metals. If you include that stream in the economics, the after-tax rate of return is approximately 60% at much lower commodity prices than we are in today. And we are almost all the way through our permitting process, nearly complete on the environmental license, and have been received in secondary permits. We have the third ever investment protection agreement for exploitation signed in Ecuador. The other two are Mirador and Fruto Norte, which are in production. And we're approximately 65% complete through detail engineering. Adventus and Luminex individually had very strong shareholder bases, not a lot of overlap. We're thrilled to combine these shareholder bases to create what is an enviable platform for growth. Both teams have significant size teams with G&A, so we see some rationalization there and the potential for about $2 million a year of G&A savings. Marshall?
Yeah, the Condor project's in a PEA stage, and subsequent to that, we've done a lot more drilling, and we think we have a much better project to move forward with. The PEA that was done in 2021 showed you a 12-year mine life, and US 387 million NPV at 5% using $1,600 gold. If you go up 20%, it gives you an NPV of about mid 500s. But what we've discovered there is we discovered this Cuyas West zone, which we can talk about a little bit later, and we've enhanced the camp zone. These are 2 underground targets with the drill program. We've done this last year. And at Cuyas West, we've drilled the highest grade gold intercepts that we've ever drilled within Luminex. So I'll be excited to talk about that in a minute.
So safe to say, lots of exploration targets, and Adventus was and is very excited about these new high-grade discoveries at Condor and how that project setup can change in due course. High level in terms of this combination, we're combining just over or just with a slight premium to the respective 20-day VWAPs of both companies, or a 0.67 exchange ratio. Pre the $20 million or the $17 million equity raise that we announced yesterday, it works out to 61% of the company owned by Adventus shareholders and 39% by Luminex. And we have an unsecured convertible with our largest shareholder, Altius Minerals. They've agreed to roll that for a year. Management will be primarily Adventus moving forward, a construction-focused management team. The board will be a total of 8, 5 from Adventus and 3 from Luminex. We expect this transaction to close at the very end of January, and both groups had financial advisors providing fairness opinions. Most of our projects in the Proforma company are focused in 2 provinces, Bolivar province, where we have our Curipamba project, and down in Zamora province, where you have the 2 major mines in production in Ecuador. The majority of our projects are copper-gold, gold-copper, and we'll zoom in on Zamora province and Luminex's projects there later in the presentation. This is an estimated pro forma capital structure based on market close yesterday and the financing that we announced, which is fully allocated and committed. So we're looking at $140 million market cap, $44 million. That is our June 30th cash balances adjusted for subsequent events. 12 million debt, that's 4 million convert with Altius, and we've drawn $5 million on a credit facility with Trafigura. Separately, we're kind of 65 and 30 million market cap companies with very interesting assets, but kind of losing relevancy in the market. Combined here, this is a much more substantial company with a very strong shareholder base, as I mentioned. In a much better market, this would probably be a $300 million market cap company. Adventus has 5 analysts covering the story. We expect those analysts to continue to cover the Proforma company going forward. And as a result of this transaction, our 2 largest shareholders are Ross Beatty and the Lumina Group, and a grouping of Ecuadorian high net worth investors. Management team in green is the same Adventus management team as you see today. The new Luminex board members will be Marshall, David Farrell, and Ron Hallis, who's the CEO as well of Lumina. And Leo Hathaway is joining our advisory group to advise on exploration activities. Both groups very focused on CSR, ESG. We have very strong community relationships over all of our projects, and we're like-minded from that perspective. For those that don't know the El Domo project, we have a single high-grade volcanic massive sulfide lens. The first 10 years of mine life is a 6.5 million ton reserve at 5% copper equivalent. That breaks down around 2% copper, 2.5% zinc, 2.5 grams gold, around a 6-to-1 strip. Most of that resource is 40 to 80 meters below surface. And then after the 10-year mine life, based on our 43-101, we envision another approximately 3 million tons of underground resources, also at 5% copper equivalent, but more copper rich. The project is located from Guayaquil, around 3 hours away, primarily on the Pan American Highway. There is electrical grid connection, but we're upgrading that as part of the construction of the mine. Quickly here on a year-by-year NSR basis, but more interestingly, a copper equivalent grade basis, you can see here, year one, we're starting at 7% copper equivalent open pit. And from a revenue perspective, we are a copper mine with very strong credits. With the inclusion of the stream, the copper revenues are closer to 60% over life of mine. Key timeline for us. So as mentioned, we're near the end of our permitting process. We're well down the track on detailed engineering. We have an investment protection agreement in place. We have guided the market to having our permits in place by Q2 of next year. There was an important announcement last week from the Constitutional Court, which allows us to continue on with our environmental permitting and complete our socialization phases for such permit. When we were stopped by the court, or all processes and all industries were stopped by the court in early August, we had 6 to 8 weeks left in the process. So that gives you some guidance to, where we could be in 2024. We've been receiving secondary permits for the project. We received our certificate of no effect in October, which allows us to discharge water when we have a mine in place. We have 4 secondary permits left to be approved, which we expect over the ensuing months. Once we start construction, which we hope to do after the rainy season is complete, we'll call it Q2 of next year. It's about a 22-month build, and first concentrate production in January of 2026. There are significant ways for us to improve the NPV and the IRR of El Domo without drilling another hole. The most significant is accelerating that underground development that I mentioned to earlier years, and through increasing the capacity of the mill and mining the open pit and underground at the same time. That adds about $80 million of NPV8, and we expect to do so, but currently our focus is making sure we can get into production as quickly as possible. Over to you, Marshall.
Yeah, so I'll just walk you through our portfolio. We're primarily on the southeastern part of Ecuador, in the most, I would say, the most prolific, and where the 2 mines, Mirador and Fruta del Norte, are. And basically, if you look up at the top here, you got Warintza, Tarqui, Kimi. Tarqui and Kimi are some of our grassroots exploration copper projects. Then you go down to Mirador, and then Fruta, and the yellow on the right is Condor. And basically, we've been in the area working for since 2016, and have come up with quite a bit of new discoveries ourselves. There's been over 150,000 meters of drilling there, and there was some 40 million spent prior to our getting involved. And then we spent about that much on the project at all ourselves. We've got about 98.7% ownership by Luminex, and then 1.3% by the Ecuador Military Pension Fund. There's 3 primary areas. If we go to the next slide, I can talk about at Condor. Let's go one more and we'll come back. So one more, sorry. I guess the slide is out of the deck, so let's go back, Christian. Apologize for that. Basically, the Condor North 2021 PEA, we looked at sort of a 607,000 or $607 million bill for initial project at 25,000 tons a day. That was both 3 open pits and an underground at the camp zone. We've re-looked at the project, and without going into all of the details on this, we're looking now at a starter project with the camp zone underground, which was 2,500 tons per day in the PEA in 2021, and the Cuyas West deposit, which is a new discovery. So the camp zone had about 650,000 ounces of gold, near surface underground target, and it had sort of 80,000 ounces of gold production a year in this PEA. And we're looking at a similar size discovery with some additional drilling at Cuyas West. The grade at the camp zone was 3.5 grams per ton. Cuyas West is a higher grade deposit. So we're rethinking the entire PEA that we put out in 2021 to be 2 starter project with 2 underground mines at the camp zone in Cuyas West. And then later in the mine life, that'll probably give you about a 10, 12-year mine life. We would look at bringing in potentially some of the underground or the open pit targets. So let's go to the next slide and I'll show you the Cuyas West. So basically you've got a collapsed caldera, and you can see the camp zone kind of strikes northwest, southeast, and intersecting or directing towards that vectoring is the Cuyas West deposit. It's right on the margin of the Cuyas West diatreme that's open pit target in the PEA. But if you look on the left here in the holes that we've shown, we've had quite a few intercepts that are pretty close to true widths here, between 4 meters and 8 meters, consistently 5 grams in the first 3 holes there. And then you get down into hole number 6 through 17, and you can see we're getting very good numbers, 12 up to 19 grams. And basically that's a gold equivalent, but it's only silver and gold in this equivalent calculation. And then 2 of the best holes we've ever drilled out here are 5 meters at 30 grams per ton in hole number 5, and then 3 meters at 39 grams per ton in hole number 18. So we've only drilled this to about 350 meters in depth. We're looking at continuing drilling in the future, about a 5,000 to 6,000 meter drill program to infill between 350 meters vertical down to 500 meters vertical. So there's also the ability to step out along strike as well. So we're really excited about this target. Next slide.
Yeah, if I might add to this, for the Adventus investors that don't know this story, I mean, if you look here on the larger project, just a change of $160 per ounce in the gold price takes the NPV up by $200 million post-tax, and IRR about 5%. So very, very high leverage to the gold price in a rising gold environment. But as Marshall was saying, this discovery is recent. This drilling is just over last year or so, and we think this changes the complexion of the project. And I don't think it's a high bar to get to 1 to 2 million ounces at good bulk mineable underground grades, and look at this more as a smaller, high grade, high IRR type project.
Yeah, and you would also, Christian, would end up with the initial capital quite a bit lower too, somewhere in the sort of 250 million to 300 million range, because you'd be probably going to a 4,000, say 3,000, 4,000 ton per day initial project.
Yeah, it's another El Domo, but it's important to note the access to this system is also very, very easy because of the topography.
Yeah, it's near surface. Basically, both of these structures outcrop at the surface, so it doesn't take much to develop them underground.
So to conclude, this transaction brings together two already very strong shareholder registers, and despite very difficult market conditions, we're through at least a $17.1 million equity financing. This gives us lots of financial flexibility here to complete the permitting, start construction El Domo, and to continue to maximize value within our portfolios. Permitting news should be steady over the next while. Daniel Noboa gets sworn in as president tomorrow. There's a new cabinet, so there's a little bit of information phase that needs to happen. But starting in Q1, we think we'll be off to the races. Start construction in Q2. So we continue to bolster our construction team and finalize engineering for that. And the exploration portfolio, there's multiple new discoveries within this portfolio that will come over time. Will be an ongoing discussion with the Luminex, our new Luminex partners, on which projects we might farm out, sell, which ones we might drill ourselves. But a ton of optionality, both with the 8 million ounces of gold equivalent at Condor that exists today, but also the very large copper gold exploration portfolio in the right postal code of Ecuador. Marshall?
Yeah, we're really excited about this and look forward to working with you to bring not only El Domo into production, a pipeline project like Condor, and then some of our grassroots copper projects. And we're also looking at conversations with potential partners to join in on those early grass stage projects in a non-dilutive way to the share price via JVs.
Great. Over to you, Kyle, and we're ready to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Christian. Feel free to exit if you want the presentation or keep it up. For anyone that has came in later to the discussion, just a reminder, we are answering questions. You can find the Q&A chat in the bottom right corner of your screen. Now, we do have a few pre-submitted questions via email here. Where would the combined company be based and have offices out of?
Yeah, the combined company is going to be based in Toronto, seeing that the majority of the management team is Adventus, and we're based here already. That will stay. We both have offices in Quito, so we'll look to rationalize that office in Quito.
And is El Domo the third project to have investment protection agreement with the government of Ecuador? If so, how does El Domo compare to the other operating mines of similar size or in size?
Yeah, there is investment protection agreements for exploration stage projects, and there are those for exploitation. So Adventus was the third ever to get the exploitation version of it. The other two are with Mirador and Frutal Norte, which is Lundin Gold. And our arrangement is quite similar, but each one has some bespoke aspects as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if someone in the chat could please reply here. So, I do see it's working. I was wondering if it was working. It's a shy audience today. We did get a question here, it looks like. How much additional financing for El Domo construction?
Yeah, so this transaction gives us a good chunk of equity to go along with the $241 million project financing. We're looking to increase the debt component or the gearing of the project. The project can sustain that, and we're hoping to announce something there in the first half of 2024. And there's likely to be a final equity piece once we start construction, but there are many ways to solve for that. The simplest would be a strategic investment of some sort. With our strengthened combined shareholder base, the final equity raise is very, very doable.
Thank you. Another question here. Can you describe the share valuation of this deal?
Well, both companies here have been trading at their all-time lows. We both raised capital at significantly higher levels, and so that's an important factor. Our share price has rebounded a little bit from the bottom based on this Constitutional Court outcome, but we view ourselves trading in the 0.15 to 0.25 times PNAV range, which we think is ridiculously low for the grade that we have, most of the project financing in place, most of our permits in place, and our construction team. Normally you would see that more in the 0.4 to 0.5 times range. And maybe Marshall, you can talk about where your perceived value is for Luminex.
Yeah, we saw a pretty good spike in our share price after we made the significant Cuyas West discoveries, but we've drifted down recently to some of our all-time lows, like Christian had talked about. And basically, I think it's moved down somewhat with the sector, but I think this deal here put together, I think you should see a re-rating of both companies. Or as one company in the future as Adventus, and we look forward to that.
Great. How have the phones been and emails this morning? Any further comments on the current state of the capital markets and this current financing or deal?
Yeah, my email inbox, text, WhatsApp has been nonstop over the last 12 hours or so. Very reassuring. People are excited. Twitter and LinkedIn, the views are in the many thousands. So I'm quite pleased. And then the trading today, there's a financing here. You never know what's going to happen. I think the volumes of both companies are quite good, and I'm pleased where the stock for Adventus is trading as well. Right, Marshall?
Yeah, we've seen that. Both Scott and myself have seen a massive inflow of positive emails and texts and a lot of congratulations. So I think also, given that the gold price is in a good place, I think it's creating more interest for the joint company going forward. And obviously, the copper market's going to be strong in the future going forward as it has been. It's down a bit now. So I think it bodes well for both of us as we go forward in one company.
I just see a comment here. Don Yud, or the individual asking when to catch this replay. We're typically have it available within the day, if not definitely tomorrow. There's another question from Tim Lee here. What are the remaining permanent steps for El Domo? Are there still pending legal items, or was the recent court ruling final?
Yeah, the Constitutional Court is like the Supreme Court in Canada, so it is at the highest level, and that is a very clear outcome. Doesn't matter what country you're in, there's always the potential for challenges along the permitting route. But in terms of our secondary permits, they're almost all in the technical reports done, formulating the final resolutions. And in the case of the environmental permit, we're in the last and final step there. So as mentioned, our guidance is to have all of our permits in place in the first half of 2024.
Great. Unfortunately, we do have to stop in a few minutes here, so we'll wrap it up here. If we haven't got to your questions, we'll make sure the team connects to you via email as you did register for this event. Any final words from either of you two gentlemen before we close things off?
Well, I think this type of combination should happen more often in our business. It's been a pleasure working with the Luminex team to get ourselves here. I look forward to working with the Luminex team to build a significant mining company. And I'm really excited about the future for us. Marshall?
Yeah, I mean, we start with a base of some 6 million ounces of gold in the different deposits we have within Condor. I didn't mention the Santa Barbara deposit. It's a gold copper porphyry in the south part of the concession package. That's got about half of the gold in it. You know, back to the valuation question, when you look at it, even if you valued $10 an ounce in the ground, we're still significantly undervalued where we sit. So from that thesis, I think there's a really good opportunity to see the share price move up, particularly as the market improves and as we complete this deal. And I think we're, you know, the whole group, the board, Ross Beatty, all of our investors are excited to move this forward.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for everyone that attended today. Thank you.